I just want to welcome you all, introduce myself, kind of kick it off with that. I appreciate everybody who has made time to join this today. I will tell you, this has been kind of a long time coming for me, getting this series of webinars kicked off. So I'm really excited that we're finally making it happen. And I appreciate you guys are part of our inaugural class. So my name is John Murphy. I am the Senior Director of Service Sales and Operations here in the Americas, North America Renewals team for Juniper. I've been here for about 10 years. I see some of the names on this call I recognize, many I don't, so welcome. I've been in this industry forever and a day, at Avaya before this and at Nortel before that. So for some reason, service sales and renewals has been my home for 25 plus years, with the last 10 years here at Juniper. My team, the renewals team in North America, many of you probably work with without knowing, that they're part of my team, but my team is the team that does all of the renewal quoting for renewals for North America, but we assist in a lot of other ways in the overall service sales process, whether it's new or just a lot of problem solving or CSAT issues or service delivery items that come up. I've got a team of pretty experienced, long-time subject matter experts. So we tend to be the place where people go when they have questions, which is good and bad. So why are we here today? Before I do that, is Torey on the call? I did not see.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. So Torey Baker is also joining us. Torey is one of our senior operations leads in the global operations team, and he really is the guru. I'm not sure he'd use that term, but I will, behind our self-serve renewal portal, which is going to be a big focus item for today. So thanks, Torey, for joining. And we've got a bunch of other folks between our customer success and our channel enablement and service renewals team who have really helped bring this together. So welcome and thank you. A couple of years ago, we started a conversation about what would I like all of my partners and my resellers to know about services. There's a lot to know about services. It's a complicated business between policies and install base and RMAs and service offers and tracking every serial number. You all know the complexity of renewals. It's pretty extreme. And I certainly would never expect everybody to know everything, but what are the key items that I wish all of my partner account managers in Juniper and all of my partners and my distributors knew about services? That's kind of what led to this series. Because I often see that there are folks out in the field in our channel organization, as well as internal, that just don't have the knowledge on some of the key things that I'd like them to have. And I understand that. I have the same problem in my team. I'm hiring new people. We've got attrition. How do you train them? How do you onboard them? And it's harder for, I think, a channel partner to do that because I'm only one company. I think on the partner side and the channel side, you're representing multiple vendors often, and your employees have to know something about all those vendors. That's a tricky spot to be in. So we said, hey, it'd be great. How do we expect our partners to know this info if we're not teaching them? So why don't we create a series of webinars? Nothing too intense. I'm not trying to take up a lot of time. Everybody's busy. I get that. So again, I appreciate your time. But what we decided to do was create this series of what we're calling educational training webinars. We've got 5 planned. We're going to roll them out over the next couple of months. And this is really aimed at what are the key things that we would like our partners to know about services. So what we're doing is creating this series of educational webinars. They're all going to be shared with you after. They're going to be posted to our partner center, another one of our focus items today. And hopefully they'll help you, in the future if you're ever stuck or trying to train or onboard somebody. But really why we're doing it, we're trying to streamline the renewals process. I don't think there's many people that would argue me that the renewals process can be cumbersome. Today, you're waiting for a notification about a renewal, or you're waiting for your quote to be delivered, and you're sending emails into the renewals team. And we've got an alias that we manage with thousands of emails every quarter. And there's a lot of kind of waiting going on. We're trying to reduce that. how can we enable partners to have the information and the knowledge to answer questions on their own so they don't have to reach out to Juniper? But also, how can we streamline the quoting process a bit so you're not sitting there waiting for Juniper? This has been one of the pain points that we've heard in feedback from our channel teams for years. So we did create a self-serve partner portal, and we're just trying to refresh that people are using that tool. So that's kind of the, what we're doing and why we're doing it. Today, we're going to go through a little bit of our partner center, and we're going to talk about our self-serve renewal portal. We're going to have some Q&A at the end. I want to say this now. Please let me know what you think, right? We're doing a lot of this, hopefully, to help you. If it's not helpful, tell us what would be. If you liked something, if you didn't like something, any feedback would be really appreciated. Okay, so here we go. Next slide, please. So like I said, we're creating a series of webinars. Right now, these are the topics that we've got planned. We've got 2 sessions dedicated to tools. And why 2 sessions? We've got a lot of tools. You'll see on the next slide coming up that there is a solid suite of tools that Juniper has available for partners to use. And I will tell you, I know a lot of partners who didn't know some of these. So what we're trying to do is just make sure everybody's aware of the variety of tools, where to find them, how to get access to them, what their purpose is. We're not going to do a deep dive training on every tool. There's too many of them. So part of this, like I said, is we're going to dive into the Partner Center and the self-serve portal. And then we're going to do a bit more of a high-level view in our second webinar session on the other tools, just to create the awareness for everybody. And then if there's any follow-up training or questions that come out of that, we're glad to do it. I like to do a session on what do we sell? I'm in the Juniper service sales organization. What are the services that we sell? I do regularly come across cases where folks aren't aware of some of the services that we sell or the terminology that we use. So let's make everybody aware of the basic Juniper maintenance support, the advanced services that we sell. We're going to touch on some education and training because it's a nice upsell opportunity. And then we'll delve a little bit into subscriptions in the service offering, because our software subscriptions have really become a major player in the mix here. Kind of my passion project, we're going to talk about our key policies. We've got a lot of policies. I would never subject you to them all, but the key ones like incumbency, like warranty, like gray market, like inspection and late renewals and reinstatement. Those are things that our partners deal with every day. Want to make sure that everybody understands the ins and outs of those policies. And then we'll wrap up the series with just a discussion on some best practices. And that could be a bit of tools. It could be a bit of navigating the Juniper renewals process, the alias, what to expect, some tips and tricks to make that experience a little bit more pleasant. So we're going to go through a lot of this information over the 5 sessions. Like I said, we'll record them all. Any written materials, we'll get it all posted on webinar after, on Partner Center after, so you can access them. From a timeline standpoint, we'll do this probably every 3 weeks-ish over the next 2 months, couple of months. We're trying to be mindful of things like holidays and quarter end. We don't want to take up too much of your time. We don't want to have them too often. So we're going to try to spread it out a little bit, looking to wrap up in the early half of Q4. Okay, next slide, please. Before we jump into this section about the actual tool, I would like to ask you a favor. I'm not exactly sure where the slide is coming up, but we're going to pop a poll into the presentation. What I'm trying to get a handle on is I'd like to know my audience a bit better than I do. I often say to people, from a renewals team perspective, who are we working with at the partners? We've got large partners with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of employees, and we've got small mom and pop partners, and they're all bringing service business into Juniper. So how do we cover the different team makeups in our channel, right? We've got partners that have a dedicated renewals team, and the entire team may be dedicated to Juniper, or that rep may be dedicated only to Juniper services. You could be a renewal rep who's working in a dedicated renewal team, but you're handling renewals for multiple vendors. Totally get that. It would just be helpful to kind of know. We've got partners who don't have a dedicated renewal team, the account manager or the sales rep, depending on the terminology. They're driving the renewals for their customers. They're selling them new and they're selling them renewals. I know we've got some sales managers on the call today, things that may help your overall team. Maybe none of the renewal reps are on, but as a sales manager, this is information you can share. Or am I missing anything here? Is there other folks that that are on the call that aren't part of those four? You could be the principal at the partner who saw the invitation, but you're not the one actually driving the renewal. So we'd like to try to get a feel for who's on the call. So if everybody could just take a couple of minutes and just tell me what your role in the organization in this poll, that would be great. Apparently I have to take it too. So I'm going to check sales manager and submit. There we go. All right. So I appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit about the tools. Next slide, please. So why are the tools important? Why are the Juniper tools important to our partners? A lot of our tools are developed to be field and channel facing, so they're for you. We use some of them internally, but some of them we don't. They're only partner facing. So we want to go through the tools so you know that they exist. Some of them you may use all the time. Some of them you may not use a lot, but it's helpful to know that they exist. So I just want to, again, educate and awareness. I want to make sure that you know we've got all these tools at your disposal. Use them if they're helpful. When we're done with this tools sessions, my goal is to have a slide deck that we'll send to everybody. We'll post it on the Partner Center that is simply the tools overview. It is not intended to be an in-depth training on every tool we have. Nobody wants to read that many slides, right? But what is it going to be? It's going to tell you what the tool is, how you get to it, what's the URL, how do you get access to it, and what is the point or the purpose or the benefit of that tool. That's all I want to create, is make sure that everybody's got that one slide deck in their hand that encapsulates all of the different Juniper tools and how you get access to them. Today, we're going to focus on our Partner Center and our Renewals Portal for the most part, but I also want to do just a quick tools overview so you can see the variety of tools. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So first of all, why is any of this important? Why are our tools important to you? What we're trying to do is help empower you to manage your business, your service sales, your service renewals business more efficiently and faster. I do hear regularly from partners, and I appreciate the feedback, that our renewals process can be cumbersome and painful. Some of it is just the nature of the business. I've been doing this a long time, and unfortunately, when you're dealing with customers' install base and services, sometimes people don't like to part with their money for services, right? They need a little convincing. Luckily, in the renewals business, they've already made the commitment to purchase once. We just want to make sure that we're getting them to come back. So I want to empower our partners to have it at their fingertips to manage their business. I don't want you having to wait on the Juniper renewals team for things. If you're trying to work a renewal and you're trying to create a quote, or you're trying to manage that discussion with your customer, what is the information that you need? And these tools will help you get there. So we're trying to improve your overall efficiency. We're trying to also let you take control of your renewals business rather than waiting for Juniper to kind of play that role that we do today. We're not going anywhere. We're still willing to do all the things that we're doing today. But I do hear a lot that it would be great if I could do this on my own. I'm just trying to let people know that a lot of it you can. And then behind that, we've certainly got all the resources internally that we have today that will still be managing the renewal process. Nothing is changing, but I want to make sure that you all know that there are some things you could be doing on your own should you choose to. Okay, next slide, please. So this is the tools overview. I would say we've got 9 essential tools that partners should know about, and that's cheating a little bit because one of the boxes actually has 4 tools in it. So these are all things that you may be using today. A lot of our partners go to Partner Center constantly, but I will tell you, I've heard from partners, they didn't know Partner Center was there. So again, this is about trying to appeal to the masses. How do I make sure all of our partners, VARs, resellers know that all these tools exist? We're going to talk about Partner Center and Self-Serve Renewal Portal, but I know a lot of our partners are in the Juniper Support Portal, JSP, all the time. There's some new functionality in sections of that portal that are dedicated to services you may not know of. Things like the serial number entitlement tool. Partners, again, use that all the time. The update install base, order status tool. These things have been around forever, and most people do know about them, but I'm sure a lot of people don't. Then there's a couple tools that you may not be aware of, like Service Performance Insights. That's a tool that partners can use to manage their services business. The product to service mapping. I've learned that some people don't understand or know what that tool is about. That tool has gone through a revamp and a relaunch recently, so now there's a much easier version of it on the JSP Juniper Support Portal. Serial number entitlement, that tool's been around, like I said, forever. It is getting relaunched in August. So that should, by the time we get to the second tool session, that serial number entitlement relaunch should have happened. So we'll be covering that. So this is the overview of all the tools I want people to be aware of. We're going to cover 2 today. In our next session, we'll cover the others, not as in-depth as we're going to cover Partner Center and the portal today. Okay. Next slide, please. So let's get into Partner Center a bit. To me, if you could just go to the next slide, please. So the Partner Center to me is it's really the place that everybody should be, really. It's one-stop shopping for anything a partner should need to know. And I realize it's not going to answer every question and give you everything you need, but it's a good starting place. This is a site that sole purpose is to be dedicated to supporting the partners. There is so much information on this site. And, you know, I realize sometimes that can be a bit overwhelming, but we're going to cover the highlights of it. And my takeaway that I hope you all absorb here today is I need to spend more time. I need to go to Partner Center. I need to make sure I have access. I need to have it bookmarked, and I need to look at it. It's a wealth of information. So we're going to have a short video as somebody does a walkthrough and a demo for that. But just so you understand what the point of the Partner Center is, there is information about product, services, programs, marketing materials, access to tools, explanation. There's the Partner Business Center. Again, that's a partner-facing tool. But that'll give you, there's information about MDF, marketing development funds. There's all kinds of information laced throughout this tool. And it's organized pretty well. We're going to focus mostly on the services tab today, but the walkthrough will give you a little bit of an overview of the whole site. Within the services section, there's information on all of our like I said, our policies. And that to me is the core of it. When I want to reference the actual Juniper policy, I go to Partner Center, and that's where I get the version, because I know that is the latest and greatest external facing policy document. So I can't expect our partners to know about it if I don't know about it, but I want to make sure that we're talking the same revision, the same version. So when I need to look at the latest and greatest, and I know I'm looking at what you're looking at, I go to Partner Center. You will see in several places in Partner Center, there is a link to the self-serve Partner Renewal Portal. We really want you to use it. So we put the link in many places, but there's training materials there. There's information about order management and purchase order requirements. And as you see, the different services that we sell, the service description documents, there is a lot of great information on Partner Center. If you're not a frequent visitor to Partner Center, you should really check it out. Okay, next slide, please. Are we at the demo here? Yep. So we're gonna share this demo. It's just a quick walkthrough. We're not going to go through all the tabs. We're not going to talk about all the links, but the demo itself hopefully will give you an overview of the layout and kind of how to navigate Partner Center. And then if there's any specific questions after, we can certainly follow them up. So Sam, Reg, if you could please play the demo video, that'd be great.
This brief demonstration will show you how to navigate the Partner Center, as well as the service resources you need to help have successful renewals with your customers. The best way to get to Partner Center will be to navigate to juniper.net, following the prompts to log in, which will give you direct access to Partner Center, selecting partners from the top tab menu, and hitting Partner Login. This will take you directly to Partner Center. The landing page features a carousel with some important information, quick links, which are the most clicked links within Partner Center, including JPA and champions. By scrolling down a little further, you will find timely news and announcements, as well as the most up-to-date registration links for events and webinars pertinent to yourselves. At the top of the Partner Center homepage, you will find the main menu bar, each with their own drop-down sections. In the Services section, you can navigate to the Services Partners Programs tab, where you will find relevant information based on the type of partner that you are. By clicking these, you can see it gives you dedicated resources. Speaking of resources, if we head back to the Services tab and navigate to Resources, you will see helpful training and resources, including documentation, links to the Juniper Learning Academy, and Juniper Shorts, which are short videos covering key topics in networking, automation, cloud security, and more. The Tools and Resources tabs below contain documentation, links to knowledge base articles, as well as news and announcements and webinar registration. If we go to the Operations section of the Services tab, this is where you will find most of the pieces that you will need to have successful renewals with your customers. As well as focusing on some of the service renewals pieces, it's really important to see that we have all the policies listed here. The most in-depth policies are listed, as well as shorter FAQs. Juniper recommends all partners maintain knowledge of the key policies to ensure seamless renewals. Navigating to the Service Renewals tabs, we can see Service Contract Renewals Guides, as well as access to the Juniper Partner Renewals Portal, and a link to the training that we will go through a little later in the session.
So really, I encourage you all to check it out. There's a lot of information, more than we could easily just cover in this session, but there is a lot there to find. Okay, so let's jump into the core topic, our Renewals Portal. Next slide, please. So what is the Renewals Portal? You know, again, I mentioned earlier, we've heard for years that our channel folks have said, hey, do you have a self-serve portal? You know, your competitors have one. So we did build one. We launched it a few years ago. This tool was launched probably 3 or 4 years ago. And it was intended to be that kind of one-stop shopping for a certain set of your renewal quotes. So it is on, you can get all of your quotes here. You can create quotes, you can edit them, you can download them, you can get information here, such as, you know, contracts and serial numbers. But it really is intended to be that place that you go to as your starting point. There's a link there that you can open a case, and which will go to the renewals team if you need help. So it is a great landing page for anybody who's involved in creating Juniper renewal quotes to start off. And what the best selling feature about this that I can tell you is it's quick, right? So let's skip down to the fourth one, immediate access, right? You can get a quote that already exists, or you can create a quote, and the turnaround time to get that quote, you would have the quote generally in your hands in less than 30 minutes and often in less than 15 minutes. So it's quick to get the quote. Now, just to level set, people who already know what the service renewal alias is today, you send in an email to the alias, it gets handed off to whoever handles that particular end customer. And then there may be a quote that's needed, or a new quote or revisions. And the whole thing, all of that comes with a 72-hour SLA. Now, 24 hours to 48 hours is usually the norm. 75% of the time, the quotes are done in 24 hours. So there is generally a quick turnaround time, but it's frustrating when you want it faster, right? Or you need it faster. This is the perfect tool for you. So keep that one thing in mind. There's no lines, no waiting here. You can go and you can get your quote, either download the quote that already exists or create a quote yourself. And I do realize this tool isn't for everybody. If you're a sales rep out in the field selling, you may not be investing the time to learn and master the Juniper partner portal, get that. But if you've got a dedicated renewals team or a sales team that's also handling renewals, and some folks are primarily working on Juniper, anybody who's creating repeat quotes throughout the year for Juniper, this is a great tool for you to use. Okay, next slide, please. So this is probably the most impactful slide in the whole deck that I want you to know, truly. The portal does two things. We call it the self-serve renewal portal, but it does two things. You can simply get the quote that Juniper has already created. So I call it the Juniper quote repository. Keep in mind, and we'll talk about this more in the best practices session, Juniper creates a proactive renewal quote for every expiring support contract 4 to 5 months in advance of expiration. The quotes are already systemically created. We're almost into September. In September, we'll be creating all the Q1, any contract that's expiring in Q1, we're going to create a renewal quote for it. It may not be the final version. Things may change between September and Q1. I get that. But the fact is, there's a starter preliminary initial quote. See if it fits your needs. It may have all the serial numbers on it that you need. It may need minimal revisions. Log into the portal and get the quote that we've already created. So I like to really stress that with folks. If you're not a partner who has the volume and needs to invest the time in really learning how to use the portal from a create and edit standpoint, use it to get your quotes. I can't tell you how many emails I see where somebody says, can you send me a copy of the quote? Every time I see one, I want to chime in and say, go to the portal and download it quick, right? So use the quote, use it as a quote repository, log into the portal, find, if you know your quote ID, if not, you can search for it, simply download the quote. If you're a bit more adventurous and if you've got the volume, and that's where the tool from a quote create and edit standpoint is great. You can create your own quote from scratch. You can copy the quote that we've already created. And why would you do that? Maybe it needs some minor revisions. You want to change the service level. You want to add a serial number. You want to remove a serial number. So it needs some edits. Then just use the quote that we started off with and then make the edits. Or maybe the quote that we created is too many serial numbers and you're only renewing a subset. So sit down and create a quote if you want for just the quotes, just the serial numbers that you have the need for right now. So you can really use the portal two different ways: create and edit, or simply obtain and download. Okay, next slide, please. So why should you use it at all? And really the biggest one, it should be in the biggest block here, it's quick. People don't like waiting for their quotes from the alias. I get that. This is quick. You can get your quote fast. If the quote is all set to go, you've got all the right info, you've created it, we're talking 30 minutes to get your quote. That saves you a lot of time. You can, if you're sitting down to work a renewal, you don't want to start this quote today, this whole renewal process today with Juniper, knowing you're not going to get your quote for a day or two. You can wrap the whole thing up today. You could have the quote and you can move on to your next account. The tool is pretty flexible. You'll see it in the demo. One of the helpful features is it's got this install base sweep functionality where, let's say you're creating a quote for 5 serial numbers, but the portal, the tool says, hey, you know what? There's 5 more that expired that you're not asking for a quote. Do you want to include them? Or you've got some items coming off warranty. Do you want to include those? A little upsell opportunity. So it looks at a little bit bigger picture of the customer's install base to say, here's some other items we see that maybe you should be quoting. Do you want to quote them? Next slide, please. So just a couple of kind of do's and don'ts, right? So things that you need to know, all the assets, all the serial numbers need to belong to the same end customer. That goes back to the customer's registration or install base, same thing. The device has to be correctly registered to the right end customer. So that's a plug for, please help us keep our install base data and the customer's registration data current and correct. You need to be the incumbent partner. If you're not the incumbent, you can't get a quote. You have to work with the renewals team. The service duration really needs to be 12 months or more. We don't really allow short-term contracts, short-term renewals, unless they're part of a co-term. So if you're creating a quote at least one serial number on there has to be 12 months. And then other items you could do short-term if you're co-terming. The service has to be currently active or expired within the last 12 months. And if it did expire, if it has expired, then the late fees would apply. And then any standard discounts, program discounts, will be automatically applied, like your SVC discount or your PAR support discounts. Some other considerations to know: in these cases, you really should check with the renewals team. It might be your better bet. Is if you're creating a large quote, if it's over $100,000, it automatically has to be reviewed by a renewals rep within Juniper. So you can create the quote, it will then route to the renewals rep for review and approval. If you've got a quote, let's say you've got 1,000 serial numbers, that's a big quote, takes a lot of time to churn through that. You're probably better off working with the renewals team for that. We've got some bulk upload abilities internally that we might be able to build that quote for you faster than you adding and renewing, hundreds and hundreds of lines. If you're not, again, if you're not any serial numbers that you're not the incumbent partner will not be allowed to be added to the quote. If you're requesting any type of additional discounting for the first time, if it's a discount that you already had approved and now you're just revising the quote, you're fine. But if you're trying to get any additional discounting for whatever the situation is, those have to go to the renewals team. The tool does not support discounting requests. And if the service has been expired for more than 12 months, the Juniper reinstatement and inspection policy applies. So the tool can't support that either. And anytime you're trying to renew what we call custom offerings, such as the advanced and premium care, part of our advanced services portfolio, those don't have standard list price. So you can't just do list, discount, net. There's some price derivation that's involved. The tool doesn't support that. And we have not integrated missed renewals into that yet. But I will tell you what this tool is really aimed for. Its sweet spot is the smaller, simpler renewals. A reasonable amount of serial numbers, cases where the customers tend to renew the same things year after year. That's really where we're seeing a lot of volume here. Next slide, please. And here you'll see the volume. So since this launched, I think it was 3 years ago, we've created globally, we've had about 22,000 quotes created. That is a lot of quotes. The average value for the quotes you can see is $3,700. So they're the smaller, simpler quotes. That's where the volume of creations is. Out of those 22,000 quotes, about 10,000 of them have already been booked into sales orders. So partners are purchasing with the quotes they created on their own rather than the ones that Juniper has created. And yes, I just quickly saw that pop-up question. Distributors, if you're the distributor of record on the quote, distributors can see the quotes that their partners have created. Oh, okay, I see. We've answered. Thank you. We've got some partners who have created and booked worth over $1 million worth of portal quotes. And our biggest partner has created and booked over $3 million worth of quotes. So they have really embraced this tool. But as you can also see, we've got partners who are creating $50 quotes and $1 million quotes. It can be used for larger dollar quotes. You just have to kind of gauge the complexity of that quote. May not be the best choice for the portal. But again, if it's the smaller, simpler, we renew a lot of our contracts as is. Ideal for this. But again, keep in mind, we've already created a proactive quote automatically, and you can get it on the portal. Okay, next slide, please. So just a few best practices, and then we're going to jump into the demo. These are the things I would say I'd like you to keep in mind. Always start the renewal process early. I realize on the smaller deals, it might actually, you don't want to go too early. Nobody's going to give you much of a response if it's really a little renewal. But anything that involves multiple serial numbers, install base, the sooner you start, the sooner you get that commitment, the sooner you fix any problems. So really begin the renewal process early. Don't create unnecessary quotes. If you don't have to create one, don't. If we've already created one and it works for you, use it. Check the portal first, see if there's already a quote out there. It might be that we haven't delivered it to you proactively through email, but the quote exists. So if you can use the one that we've already created, save yourself the step. help us fully manage your customers' install base. This is a tough topic for us at times. There's a lot of devices that need to be managed. Who's got what, located where at any one point, who's using what equipment, who's removed equipment. Keeping that install base current is a challenge for all of us. The renewal cycle is the perfect time to be having that conversation with your end customer. Here's everything I see for you. Is there more? Is this right? Have you moved any devices? We can't guarantee delivering the service to the device if we don't know where it is, right? So I think it's just as a best practice when you're having the conversation about a renewal in general, whether you're using the portal or not, this is a great time to ask them to verify their install base. Understand their business needs. Again, the renewal cycle is a great time to say, hey, what else do you have going on? Is there any downsizing, or hopefully there's some growth? Is there anything else that we could include here? Training and educational credits, all access training passes, great little upsell opportunity. Is there something else that we can mix in? Are you making any new purchases during the upcoming year? Like, that conversation will help you build, I think, a stronger renewal. And then as you go through all that, use the portal if you can. Depending on what all these conversations have led to, use the portal. If it's pretty run of the mill, get the quote that we've already created. If you need to create a new quote and it's minimal changes, use the portal. If it's something that's a drastic overhaul, check with the renewals team. Okay, next slide, please. I think we're heading into our demo. Oh, no, sorry, next steps. So what should you do next? You may already have access to the portal. Great. If you don't, get it. These are the email aliases to reach out to get your access set up. And then please try the portal. Log in, take a look at it, see if you can navigate around, see if you understand how it's laid out. See if you can figure out, hey, I know I need a quote, and this is my contract ID from last year. Can I find that quote? Play around a bit. The training demo, it's on the Partner Center, as well as some downloadable PDF work instructions for some specific how do I things. If you have any requests, complaints, suggestions, we'd love to hear them. We have a few partners who use it a lot, who are very good about saying, hey, would be great. Feel free. And visit the Partner Center just in general to learn more about Juniper Renewals. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so this is the login screen for the portal. You can see right in the middle, the getting started training materials. That's where you can get the training materials. And we're going to flip it over to a video, which is Torey recorded this for us, basically how to use the portal.
Hello, and welcome to the Juniper Network's Partner Renewals Portal training demo. Here we are on the landing page of the Partner Renewal Portal. On the left, we have key features about the portal, which we will discuss throughout this demo. Here we have links to training materials, such as PDF work instructions and a recording of this demo, a form where you can send us feedback, and some frequently asked questions. For access to or assistance with the portal, simply email the appropriate alias or click on this button to visit our Juniper support portal and open a case. Under quick links, we have links to our Partner Center, the Juniper support portal, our serial number entitlement search tool, our renewals info page of the Partner Center, and another link to the feedback form. In the top right corner, we have a global search where you can enter quotes, serial numbers, SSRNs, or contracts to view details. For example, if I enter this serial number, I can see all the renewal quotes, contracts, and information about the asset itself. Clicking into these records will provide more details. Next, let's talk about our Assets Without Service report. Simply enter the reseller, distributor, sold to, and end customer combination you'd like to search for assets for, and click Export CSV. Any serial numbers with this combination of parties that do not have a service contract will be downloaded into an Excel sheet. Open the Excel sheet to view any serial numbers returned in the report. Make note of this serial number to add to a future quote. Now let's view the quotes page. The quotes page is split into 4 separate sections: approved quotes, my drafts, expired, and unused. Approved quotes created by Juniper, your resellers, or your distributors will appear in this tab. If you scroll to the right, you can see information about the quotes such as the end customer, net price, expiration date, or even if the reseller or distributor has viewed or downloaded the quote. You can use the filter button to set filter criteria for your quote list view. For example, you can filter by specific end customers or specific distributors or even quote expiration date. Filters can also be saved for future use and will appear in your Save Filters dropdown. You can also click on the Columns tab to remove columns from your view to customize your quote list view. To download the Excel quote output, simply click on the icon under the Output column. You can also select multiple quotes and use the Download Quotes menu to download in bulk. The Quote Output option will download the Excel files for all selected quotes. The CSV file option will download the quote line items for all selected quotes. Any new quotes added since your last login will be tagged with the new red button. To view the details of a quote, simply click the quote ID. When viewing the quote, you can also download the quote output or export the line items in a CSV. You can also copy the quote, which we'll discuss in a moment. Quotes that you have created will be in the Drafts tab until they are approved. You can also make a copy of draft quotes or click the pencil icon to continue to edit. The Expired tab will contain approved quotes that are past the expiration date. Note that you cannot download the quote output for these quotes, but you can still copy them. Quotes in the My Drafts or Approved tab can also be moved to unused to help reduce clutter. Quotes that have been moved to unused can also be returned. To use an approved, draft, or expired quote as a baseline for a new quote, simply click the paper icon under the Action column to create a copy. A new draft quote will be created and be available for you in the My Drafts tab. You can see we've brought over the parties from the previous quote, as well as all the assets that were on the quote. Now we can start making changes to the quote. To select the new support coverage, click the link under the new support coverage column and select the desired service level. You can also set the requested end date for each asset and service decline by selecting the service decline box and a reason. After making your changes, click Save. Note that service decline items are moved to a separate section. You can also select multiple items and use the buttons above to apply changes in bulk. Coterm will let you set an end date for all the selected items. Edit Multiple will let you select a service level and an end date for all the selected items. Decline Service will let you service decline all the selected items, and Remove will delete the item from the quote. To add items, click the Add Items button in the top right corner. From this page, there are 3 ways to add items to the quote. The first is to download our template. Once the template is open, enter the serial number, select your requested support level, and the requested service end date. Save this file as a CSV. Once the file is saved, click Upload Files and select the template. When the file is uploaded, click Done. You'll receive a confirmation message when the serial number has been added to the quote. If you have a list of serial numbers, you can enter them 1 per line in the middle box and click Add Items. Again, you'll receive a confirmation message once the serial numbers are inserted. And finally, if you have a contract number, you can enter the contract number and click Add Items, and we will add all of the assets from that contract to the quote. Once you're finished adding assets, click on Edit and Validate to return to the edit page. Now make any final edits to the quote. Here we'll use the bulk to service decline 2 additional items. And we'll use the coterm to coterm all of the 4 remaining items on the quote. We also need to select a service level for this final item. Once our changes are done, click Save. You'll notice this red icon indicates the quote has not yet been validated. When you're ready to proceed, click the Validate button. Validating, we're making sure all of the assets on the quote belong to the end customer and you're the incumbent partner. We're also performing our support availability check and determining their pricing. You'll see here we have an error with our validation. To view the errors, click on the red link to download the Excel file with the error information. We can see here that this serial number is only eligible for core services. If we return to the quote, we can change the service level to core, save our changes, and validate again. Once the validation passes, we'll receive a success message, and you'll notice the icon is turned into a green check mark. This means we can go ahead and preview the quote before we submit. If you're having issues getting a quote to validate, you can open a case for assistance. Simply click here and click Get Quote Support, or if you need to update an asset install-based location before submitting the quote, click here. We'll open a new tab in our Juniper support portal, and you can submit a case for assistance. Once ready to proceed, just click Preview. You now have a chance to review all the line items on the quote and the pricing details to make sure you don't need to make any changes before proceeding. If you need to make any changes, just click Edit and Validate Items to return to the previous screen. If you're ready to submit, simply click Submit. You'll receive a success message that the quote has been submitted and be taken back to a view of your draft. If we go back to the quotes page and My Draft, you'll notice this draft can no longer be edited or copied. Once approved, the quote will appear in the Approve tab. Most quotes approve within just a few minutes, but note that quotes with over 100,000 US dollars net value need to be reviewed internally before approved, so there may be a slight delay. Now let's review other options for creating a quote. Under the New Quote tab, we have an option for Create Quote. This will create a quote from scratch. Enter the reseller, distributor, sold to, and end customer combination you'd like to create the quote for. For DVARs, you'll have an option to select a checkbox to determine whether you want to purchase through a distributor or not. Once the parties are selected, click Next. Choose the service type of quote you'd like to create and click Draft. Create Draft. We've now created a new draft. You can add assets to this draft using the methods we just reviewed. Once the assets are added, click Next to proceed to the edit screen. You can also create a quote from an existing contract. Similar to the scratch flow, select the parties and then click View Contracts. This will return all contracts based on the parties you selected. Simply select the contract you'd like to renew and click Create Quote. We will create a new draft quote with all the parties from the selected screen and all the assets on the contract. From here, continue to make any edits, validate, and submit your quote. As always, you can use the Add Items button to add additional assets. We encourage you to use this portal for all of your quoting needs. However, there are some limitations. For example, a quote can only have 750 line items, and all quotes created in the portal are done at standard pricing. We also cannot quote any assets that have expired for more than 12 months, or any custom price SKUs like our advanced care services. If you need assistance with any of these types of quotes, you can also use the Request Quote via Case option. This will open a new tab in our support portal with the Quote Request Case. After you submit the case, there'll be a template to download. Fill out the information in the template, attach it to the case, and our quote support team will create the quote for you. Once the quote's approved, it will be here in the Approve tab. I want to thank you for your time reviewing this demo. Please remember, if you need any assistance, you can email the theater alias or open a case. And please do send feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Torey. So I know we've had some questions going in the chat that we're trying to answer as we go, but if not, we'll certainly answer them after the call. If anybody has, we've got a few minutes. If anybody's got any specific questions they want to throw out, we'll certainly do our best to try and answer them. And like I said, if not, just put them in the chat and we'll get to them after. From a next steps thing is watch for the future invites. We hope you found this somewhat valuable and informative. We're glad to tweak and edit as we go forward. You've seen the kind of agenda that we've got coming up over the next few sessions, and session 2 will focus on tools, part 2, and that is currently scheduled for September 11th. So watch for invites, forward them to any employees that you may like to attend that weren't on the original invite. Okay. Any questions that people want to throw out?
There's a question in the chat if you want to answer now. Do you identify E-rate quotes prior to the 470 opens?
No, we unfortunately right now we don't know that there's that E-rate's involved until somebody kind of tells us. So that's not the greatest process, right? I understand that. It's the same thing as kind of the NASPO question is, you know, it's all reactive at this point, not proactive. Any other questions? And you can, I mean, the chat will be open, and you can certainly, in the feedback link that was in the slides, certainly reach out with any questions. If not, I really want to stress, I appreciate your input. We had, you know, over 125 people on today. That's great turnout. Hoping that the attendance grows as the sessions continue and that people find that this is somewhat informative. And like I said, we'd be glad to hear any feedback to make any future sessions more beneficial. But thanks so much. I appreciate you all being here.